Hello. My name is WriterMaven. I am the host of the Wrestling Receipt podcast. I talk about all things Judgment Day, Dom, Liv, Raquel, Finn, JD, Carlito. I was trying not to talk about Rhea tonight, but then she posted something stupid on the X, and I'll talk about that later on. Not now. That's going to be way after all my other stuff. So, this Raw was really interesting. I like it how we got at least some storyline progression. I kind of ignored or just went in one ear and out the other, some other stuff like Lyra Becky and stuff like that. I mean, that's good, but I'm not really interested. I'm kind of tired of Becky, so anything Becky, I'm kind of tuning out right now, especially what as it relates to what happened with Bailey and all that. I'm kind of tuning her out. So, but the Judgment Day things in bits and pieces were really interesting. We have Finn, who was put into the Dom position, which, like I said, I thought that was going to happen, where he's going to have to do all the grunt work. We had the nice little bit of Finn talking to Roxanne in the background. We had Big Mommy Cool Raquel stepping up to protect Dom. And we also had AJ stop by, referencing friends Finn as Prince. And then we saw Chad Gable, who looks like he might be cashing in on that he might have to call it cash in on that favor that he owes to Dom. So we have a lot of bits. We have a lot of interesting bits and pieces. And while I wish they would just gone and pull the trigger on some of this shit, they are at least progressing it. And I will have my comments on why all of a sudden now people think Dom is going to go cheating with Roxanne when if you know anything about Dom's character, you know that he's extremely monogamous. And that's like the only deviation of he that's the only deviation from Eddie's character that he doesn't adhere to, which I find refreshing. But I'll get to that later on. So let's start kind of some pre-raw stuff. Pre-raw, we had a nice, interesting picture of Raquel and Liv having a picture with Tatum. Now we all know that Tatum was left without a tag team partner because Gigi was released, which I'm still very sad about. But we had a really interesting picture, and that might loop into something else later on with Roxanne. But we did have this picture. I mean, it's been spun up some, theories of maybe she's joining Judgment Day. I wouldn't mind it. She's my creepy girl. I love her to death. She's really, really unique. So I would not mind Tatum. I think she needs to be somewhere else anyway. Like if she joins Judgment Day or not, I think she needs to be away from NXT because it's just so much stuff that's packed at the top. They wouldn't give her the North American Championship run. They're not going to give her an NXT Women's Championship run. So they might as well just call her up. I think a lot of these women actually should have been called up, like a Fallon, like a JC Jane, some of these other women. What's her name? Um, Kiana, not Kiana. Um, Darn it, it was Carmelo's girlfriend. I can't think of her name, and I really hate that because I really like her. But there are some women that need to probably just get called up. But with Tatum, especially, I think her unique characterization would do well on the main roster. So if it happens, it happens. I would be cool with it. I have no problems with it. It's kind of like how I came around with Cora before she got released. Like I wouldn't mind Cora but I think I was just holding Cora against not joining just because she was tied to Rhea, kind of. But now she wasn't, and now she's released. So Roxanne, Tatum, I don't care. I wouldn't mind either of them. I think they kind of fit. And I think you do need some of these women in some factions to develop them and kind of protect them too on the main roster until they branch out. But so that was pre-Raw. But we're going to head into Raw. And then we had JD versus Penta. Penta has his new music. JD, we got to hear his music and his Titantron. His screams were sick. I loved his Titantron. It's different from Liv, and it's different from Raquel, and it's different from Dom's. Dom has those little bird skulls, and then Liv has the eye. JD's was different. Um, what was his? I need to pull up that picture. Let me pull that up real quick. JD's little, like, he had like the, I think he has the Reaper, and let me go all the way back, 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 back. Okay. JD's Titantron has like a flaming Reaper, which is really really cool. I love it. And then he has the JD playing card because he is the Irish Ace. So he has that card. And Senor, thank you for that. Kalani Jordan. I knew it. It wasn't Kiana James, but it was another KJ. And thank you for reminding me. Yes, Kalani Jordan. I think should be getting called up too. I think she should have been paired with Carmelo. Just make them a basketball wives situation and then run it from there. But that's a whole nother side note on that. But getting back to JD, his Tron was really really nice. I love it. It's flaming, and I think it fits him perfectly. And that's why I said that I don't think he's going to exit Judgment Day, because look at the presentation with just his Tron. Finn already is pretty much isolated. He has the F for Finn Balor. He already has his symbol. He's already isolated to himself with Finn screens and Titantrons. But with everybody else in Judgment Day, we have some version of the Reaper. We have some skulls. We have the Eye with JD. He has like a flaming Reaper. Um, so it's a nice it's nice aesthetic wise with JD's Tron. Um, so 1 second, I'm getting bombarded with my messages. So we have that with JD. Um, we have a nice match between JD and Penta. We had Finn get himself ejected. Now I'm thinking I think they are really playing into when with Finn you lose like Finn Balor, because he got himself caught and he got him and Carlito ejected because Carlito didn't get himself caught. Notice how Carlito was acting. Carlito was being smart. He got hit with Penta, but he wasn't getting caught by the referee. Finn got caught by the referee. And then we had Chad Gable. Now remember, Chad is still beefing with Penta. He's always been beefing with Penta. He made that snide remark regarding Ray Phoenix last week about losing to El Grande Americano. And speaking of which, El Grande Americano is your new speed champion. So, Dragon Lee, I need you to turn on Ray sooner rather than later. Like, I'm serious. Like, I think Dragon Lee needs to get away from LWO. But again, that's a no whole nother segue. But yeah, so Chad Gable interferes, and that didn't help JD, and JD lost. And that's one thing I really hate about Judgment Day sometimes is that even with all the interference, they still lose. And I'm really not a fan of it. Like, if you're going to have that much interference, at least let either JD win or do like a DQ where you can kind of beat up on Penta or something like that. But I guess they needed the pin so they could set up Dom versus Penta at Backlash. And now I have a reason to watch Backlash because I wasn't going to watch Backlash, or at least I would have it on, but it would be background noise. So yeah, we do have set for this Saturday at Backlash, Dom versus Penta. Dom has the sickest. I'm saying sick a lot, but it's really sick. Dom has a really sick render for the Backlash poster and picture. Is really really nice. And if you really want to start writing some fan fiction about Vampire Dom, use that pic because holy crap, that's a nice picture. Um, so we have that set. So we have Dom and Penta set for Backlash. I'm going to have to watch that, and I'm probably going to have to come on probably after that pay-per-view to talk about it. So watch for me on Saturday. I'm not sure if I'm going to be double dipping and having something on Friday, but I probably am going to talk about it on Saturday because I was thinking, well, I don't know if I'm going to be coming on Saturday, but I think I am going to come on Saturday to talk about uh, Backlash. So then we get into the Judgment Day play playhouse clubhouse. So we get into the clubhouse. Now JD comes in all pissed off, and rightfully so. But notice that he didn't really direct his anger, or at least a lot of the anger, at Dom. His anger was directed more at Finn because Finn was the one that messed up. Remember how I said that it was, whenever Dom would lose or something like that, everybody would get, not everybody, but it was like in the beginning, it would be like, um, it would be Rhea be upset with him, Damian would be upset with him. Notice how it's kind of flipped, whereas now it's Finn that's getting the brunt of it because JD was upset, and JD has every right to be upset because Finn got himself ejected. Now, notice also that JD says, "Why is Chad Gable doing out there?" And notice how Dom reacted to that. Like he was trying to be really slick about Chad Gable because remember, JD was around for the favor, but he wasn't around when Dom like reiterated the favor with Chad Gable. Remember that was like a internet exclusive where that was the Raw where he got hurt. So he wasn't around for that exclusive where where Chad had to reiterate that he's owing Dom a favor. So we have JD like, why was Chad Gable doing out there? And that Dom was being kind of slick here. And then AJ rolls up and notice how our big sister, Big Mommy Cool Raquel was the first to reach out to protect Dom. I loved it. That's what I was saying too. Like Raquel should be Dom's heavy, or like she should be the bodyguard, and she really stepped up right there. Like she wasn't having it. She stepped up. She stepped between when AJ came around, and then we got the funny bit of Carlito said like, "How did you find us?" And then AJ said, "Our truth told me." So we have some continuity right there where our truth knows where the Judgment Day clubhouse is. So truth's a snitch right there. So we had that little bit, and then AJ's coming in, addresses Finn as the Prince, which is significant because Prince Devitt is part of Bullet Club, and also Prince was a part of Finn's face character for a long time. So you have AJ coming in, he was addressing Dom, and he was like, no matter who wins at Backlash, I'm coming for an Intercontinental title. Dom is being his asshole self and calling AJ old. And then AJ leaves stage right. And then Dom does the heelish thing here and complains about like all these challengers. And then he turns to Finn and goes like, "Hey, you have history with AJ. Why don't take care of him?" And remember when I said that Finn was going to be in the Dom position of having to do all the grunt work? There you go, right there. Because Dom pretty much said, "Hey, you handle AJ." And then Finn gets all hurt about it. "You want me to clean up your messes?" And then he tries to cover with a smile afterwards. But you could tell that was grating on him, and you know that he couldn't refuse because he did that to Dom. Dom was a part of that for a long time. He was always softening up the War Graders. He was softening up Damien. Dom was always in that position. So now it's the roles have been reversed. The tables have turned, and Finn is now doing the grunt work where Dom doesn't have to do it. He just has to wait on somebody to soften up somebody for him now. So that was the Judgment Day Clubhouse. And then later on in the night, I almost missed it. Some people caught it for me, and it was Finn talking with Roxanne. Now, this could lead to a lot of things. People are saying like he could be setting up, maybe Roxanne and Gulia have a title shot. That would still keep him heel, and I don't think you can keep Finn heel. I'm going to discuss this a little bit later, but I'm going to say some possibilities here. He could be setting up Roxanne for a tag team title shot against Liv Quell. He can be doing like trying to tempt Roxanne to Dom. Not that Dom will cheat, but doing that because he believes that he set up Dom and Liv last year, where I always have to maintain the theory that Dom and Liv hooked up way before Finn ever knew about him. So I'm expecting with this impending Dom and Finn feud that we're going to get the history that was denied us last year. Remember how we wanted the history to come out of it was Dom that set up Rhea to get attacked by Liv. We wanted the history of when Finn came into the plan. We wanted like all these other bits and pieces to come out. And I think we're going to finally get that history because Rhea is nowhere near this storyline and there's no chance of her looking bad. Now she's gonna start. She's still looking bad regardless because of what she posted on the X tonight. But we'll finally get that history with what happened last year, and I think this would be a really good way of getting it out there, telling us all exactly what happened, and then we get to close the chapter on certain things. Um, and this is Finn talking to Roxanne can also segue into Roxanne joining Judgment Day. Now, I mentioned Tatum, but I've always wanted Roxanne in Judgment Day. Gulia, there people are thinking that she's called up to the main roster, but they could be just running Gulia for Raw because everybody's out right now. Like Liv is out. We don't have any other. Bianca's out. There's nobody there. Rhea took some time off, so there's nobody else there for EO. So you could just run Gulia up there for a little bit, run this program. Maybe it leads to something at Evolution, and then Gulia can go back to NXT because she has that match with Jordan Grace tomorrow, and I still think Gulia is gonna win that. I don't think Jordan's gonna win that. I really don't. Not at least not yet. Like I would think you would want Gulia to have it because I think they would call up Stephanie Vacure, because I think she's a little bit more of a complete package than Gulia for main roster at least. So I don't think Gulia is going to get called up. Roxanne, yeah, but Gulia, I don't think so. So this could be just a segue into Roxanne getting into Judgment Day. So we saw that. So now let us contend of my these are some of my thoughts here. Like I said, Finn is firmly in the Dom position where he does all the grunt work. Um they're still continuing the storyline of the Judgment Day failing when Finn is involved with something or tries to take charge of something, it fails. Um Oh, and I did not mind, and then AJ rolls in with all his black on, and I was like, I wouldn't mind. He kind of fit the Judgment Day aesthetic. I'm not sure if he would join Judgment Day, but we kind of need somebody to replace Finn if Finn is casted out. So we still don't know who that person could be because I do think you can fit in one more woman like Roxanne and then one more guy. And I'm not sure, but when AJ popped up like that, I was like, that might work because remember, Karrion Kross was the double on AJ's shoulder for a while, and everybody that usually has Karrion Kross lurking in the background usually turns some type of heel. So we might get that kind of a swerve. Like you got AJ maybe thinking pulling Finn into like a false sense of security, and then he turns on him. That could happen. Um, and that could give Finn more sympathy. And then there are thoughts that Roxy and Gulia can go for the tech titles, but like I said, if Finn is doing this, that leads Finn. If Finn does that, where he like sets up like Liv Quell to lose the title, that keeps Finn in heel territory, and I don't think you can keep Finn in heel territory. Like it's run its course. Like how people always say, like Naomi needed to turn and Bianca needs to turn. Even though with Bianca's a special case, she I don't think needs to turn, but Naomi needed to because she's always been a face for all these years. And he's been in this heel character so long, and then he's not getting reactions. Like I'm not sure him aligning with like Roxanne and Gulia will get him a reaction heel wise. Like, I think it would be easier to transfer to get a reaction when he turns face. Now let's talk about this little meeting here. Now, Roxanne, we can't have, like, I've already talked about the tag team titles, and they could go with that. But Michin and BFAB also expressed interest, so I think they want to run BFAB and Michin first. Now they might do Liv Quill and Gulia and Roxanne later, but I think they want to do Michin and BFAB first because that'll get them on SmackDown for a little bit, and they might do have them run back and forth for a little bit when Liv gets back from Tokyo. And then we have Roxanne maybe tempting Dom. Now, I was saying this all on the X. People are always so quick to think Dom will cheat when that is not his character, and it really shows how little they pay attention to the essence of his character. Dom's character is extremely, extremely monogamous. He's only been with 2 women, and he has not flirted with any other woman on the main roster, NXT, anywhere else. He has not, no female, no woman has gotten his attention. Tiffany tried, but he did not, he shut that down really quick. So, and like I was saying earlier, him being like that is a really nice, way of not completely copying Eddie Guerrero's character, because he has all the other stuff of Eddie, being a lovable rogue, being an asshole, things like that. He carries Eddie's character like that, but when it comes to the women, he's not like this flirt that's flirting with everybody. He's not this person that's looking at all the women, and then where you would think he could be cheating on somebody later on. He doesn't do that. So that's a departure from Eddie's character, and I like that. So when people are always saying like, "Well, Don can cheat," well, you can't really set up this cheating thing in like 2 weeks. Like I keep saying, Triple H is not subtle. If we were getting any inkling that Don would be wavering and maybe thinking about cheating, we would have been getting some hints way before him. Like, if they wanted to run something with Roxanne, they would have started like having Dom and Roxanne have maybe like some, like, being in the same shot or in the background or any other clues. And remember, when Dom started with Liv, Dom's relationship with Rhea was already cracking. It wasn't like Dom leapt from this really relatively happy relationship to Liv just because he wanted to cheat. There was issues with Dom and Rhea. So when he hopped to Liv, they had a common ground against Rhea. And people don't think about that. And like I keep saying, Triple H ain't subtle. We would have seen signs of Roxanne being around Dom, or Dom being around Roxanne, or we would have gotten some sort of hints. Now, if they wanted to be slick about it and they wanted to kind of run Dom and Roxanne, this is what they could do. They can bring up something that happened in NXT last year, or the year before that, I'm sorry. So, think of it this way. Dom was the North American champion in NXT. Roxanne was down there in NXT at the same time. If they wanted to, maybe they had something going on in NXT. Now, that can come out, and maybe Finn tries to do that as a got you to Liv, but it's not going to be a got you to Liv because that happened with Rhea, not with Liv. Now, maybe you can set it up where his character kind of evolves into this ladies guy or something like that, and you could start it that way. But Dom being with Roxanne and NXT is something that would hurt Rhea. You see what I'm saying? Because he was with Rhea while he was in NXT. This does not impact Liv. So if it comes out that with Roxanne being with Dom, and then Finn tries to dangle that in like Liv's face, it might be just something like Liv already knows about it. flip it on his head, do a swerve there. Like Finn comes around and says, "Oh, I know about Dom's and Roxanne's relationship in NXT," and Liv could be like shrugging about it and be like, "I know, he's already told me." Swerve it. You can do something like that, and I think that would kind of be interesting because that gives a little quirk there, like because they always, and like I've already said, like he should have been, like if they really wanted to go with this ladies guy character with Dom, they really should have had him like flirting with all the women in NXT. That's what I would have been doing, and then on the main roster, you would have had women flirting with Dom because that distracts whoever he's with. Like you should have had people flirting with Dom when he was with Rhea. Like Tiffany was the only one that tried to attempt to do any kind of flirting with Dom when he was with Liv. Like we need to kind of have that. That could be a distractionary thing. You can have Dom rebuff it or whatever, but you could be doing something like that. But if they wanted to run something like that or start it up, you could do something like that. But there's a ton of different possibilities that can go on. We can have the tag team. We could have because notice when with Finn talking with Roxanne, Gulia was not there. So that to me that kind of indicates that's not going to be like a tag team situation, because if it was going to be tag team, when you want Roxanne and Gulia to be there, you see what I'm saying? Like why it wasn't Gulia there? And that could get Roxanne in trouble with Gulia. Like Gulia could be like, "Hey, why were you talking with Finn behind my back? What were y'all talking about?" And that could lead to some kind of split there. So, that's my thoughts on that. But yeah, but like I said, I think this upcoming feud with Finn and Dom can unlock a lot of the history that was denied us last year, and I'm really looking forward to it. But we could go a whole lot of different directions with that meeting. But to give my thoughts on Backlash, I do think Dom is retaining. That's 80-20. You know how I am. I can't give 100% guarantees with Backlash. But I do think Dom is going to retain. One, because this is going to be his first PLE with the title. And I don't think they want to hotshot that title off with Penta, because who's Penta going to defend against? I mean, he could defend against Chad, but it's not like there's a lot of heel type characters right now. I mean, you could do like Rusev or something like that, but again, it's not a lot of characters that have history and stuff like that. With Dom, you have a lot of people you can go against. You can have Penta, AJ, Sheamus, Dragon Lee, if they want to keep him face. There's a whole bunch more options with that. And with Dom, I think you want to have him have the title a little bit and then drop the title, because it doesn't make no sense just to hold it for like a couple of weeks and then drop it. No. But like I said, it's 80-20 and it's Triple H's bullshit. So I'm just gonna hope I'm thinking 80-20, but I'm just praying that Triple H doesn't hotshot the title off of Dom. What I would think would happen is El Grande Americano makes an appearance and costs Penta the title, because he's still beefing with Penta. And notice that Scrap Daddy Adam Pearce called Gable like Americano, and Gable responded. So that's kind of just pointing that Gable is El Grande Americano allegedly. So I'm thinking El Grande is gonna come out and cause Penta. That's the favor that's owed Dom. Finn might try to like make it where Dom loses, but El Grande makes the save there. And then you get everybody else extremely pissed off with Finn about it, because, hey, what are you doing? Yeah, Dom accidentally cost Finn the championship last time, but Dom kept trying to make it up to Finn as well. And Finn hasn't done anything. Like, there's no reciprocity between Finn and Dom there. So you have that called in, and then we could probably start fast forwarding to the split. What did I else say for Backlash? Oh, and this will bring the Lucha Brothers together, because I think they do want to throw Penta and Rey Fénix together, and then that's just how you get the tag team of Lucha Brothers, because that's because they were kind of coming in as a tag team, and then you can have them fighting with El Grande, and then things go on from there. Um, like I said, Finn might try to do something, it may not work. So that's my Backlash predictions for right now. I might be back on a little bit later to kind of refine it, depending on what happens on during the week. Thanks for tuning in to the Wrestling Receipts podcast. Remember to follow me on the X at WMaven, WWE, and on TikTok at WriterMaven for more wrestling insights and live reactions every Monday night after Raw. Until next time, I'm just saying.